Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of Cornerstone bite-sized videos. I'm Chris.
And I'm Nathan.
And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the fact it seems that we are heading down another pathway towards a tightening of restrictions around lockdown. And we would like to explore what that might mean for individuals from an attachment perspective and looking at mental health, maybe a little bit of self-care, what things we can do to look after ourselves and our family members during the next few weeks and months, which are going to feel a little bit uncertain. Nate, how are you doing? How are things at home for you and your family?
Good, I suppose. I don't know. Well, I suppose we've been kind of we were shielding from early March, so we literally just started kind of going back into the world, being like, hey, it's safe to do these things. So for the last kind of few weeks, we're like, hey, let's go to the shops and let's do this. And now it's like, hey, let's not. So that's where we are.
It has felt a bit like that, hasn't it? It's been strange because you know, I guess, you know, when we all had that announcement at the end of March and we kind of went a certain way, we were in our houses and it felt a little bit exciting first time round on a particular level of, oh, we're going to spend some time as a family and this could be fun, we could be in the house, you know, go outside for an hour a day, all that sort of stuff. And then after a while there were elements of that got boring for lots of people. The routine wasn't quite great for a lot of people. Of course, you know, as we see through our work, behaviors changed in families, some destructive behaviors came out for people as well. So there was unhealthy situations, I guess, for lots of people, and they would have needed to have looked at, you know, how to manage their mental health over that period of time. And then we had that glorious sense of during the summer, wasn't it? Big sigh of relief. You know, we're not kind of back to normal, but there's a new normal that feels quite palatable. We can go out and about, we can wear a mask when we're out shopping or whatever, but life in some level can be in an okay enough space for now.
Yes.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that sense of how it feels when that new normal moves to the next stage, which feels like steps backward.
Yes. Yeah, and I suppose there's that feeling of, like, say, when we first went into lockdown in March, there was a unknown concept, like, how long will this last? How long will this be? Oh, I'm getting, well, and people being furloughed, it's like, oh, I'm getting paid to sit at home and watch Netflix. This is okay. No, I mean, not everybody was in that position. Some people, the lockdown was the worst thing ever, and for some people, the lockdown was the best thing ever. And so there was this mix, but there was that unknown element about it of kind of like, you know, let's all pull together, let's try, let's do this thing, and there was that togetherness there. But I suppose, in one sense, right now, it's that thing of going, well, we know what it was like. Yeah, and we might be going back into it. And for some people, for it being hard or difficult, you know, working from home and having the kids at home and having homeschool at the same time, juggling that, you know, and kind of like families being intense together. And lots of people talked about how it feels like, you know, Christmas every day. That intensity of being with, not the fun Christmas, but that kind of going, I'm with my family every day, and I think I want to kill them. You know, that sort of thing, and that intensity of that. And then again, looking at people who like say people who have like those difficult family dynamics, and people who might be in situations where like being locked in a house with that person is the worst thing in the world. So, you know, and so all of that, we're looking at that stuff as well, going into it with these eyes of going, well, I know what it was like, and if I really enjoyed it, then I'm probably going to look quite forward to it. If I didn't, then that's going to be quite anxiety provoking. It's going to do a lot of things. It's going to trigger a lot of stuff inside of someone. So yeah, I suppose it's
why does it trigger it for people, do you think?
That's a very long question. That's a very long answer to that question. We don't have time to answer that question.
Not fully. It's for me, it feels, you know, I guess that's down to attachment, what we're used to, what provides our sense of normal. And, you know, my sense of normal will be different to your sense of normal. That's what defines us as human beings.
Yeah.
But there is that thing, as you know, those lovely words that we use in therapy with our clients around understanding and establishing a secure base. And it just feels a little bit at the moment that the secure base that we kind of all know that is society feels a bit more like a trifle than a big solid concrete mass.
Yeah, those foundations that we kind of, that, because human beings love things being the same. We love repetitive behavior because there's
even if we say we don't.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we need to redo the same things over and over again. Sometimes they're not great behaviors. That's why we exist. And sometimes, but there's safety. There'll be an element of safety that comes from it. So, and safety from the world. And that's kind of, I suppose, I'm going to go down the conspiracy theory route now. Not personally, but the reasons behind why people love conspiracy theories is because, like, when you look at the kind of the stuff where it's like, oh, there's a secret government organization rolling the world. That's because it feeds that need of going, someone's in charge of everything. So all this chaos is being controlled. And a lot of those, that's kind of where, from lots of psychology reports and research has gone into that and talks about that. Google it, it's fascinating. So kind of you've got that security that we had of going, the world is a stable place, is now going, well, the world isn't, and the world might not even be a safe place. There is a kind of quite nasty, potentially deadly virus out there that people are catching and dying from and getting really ill from. And I think I'm trying to avoid my soapbox here, but I'm going to step on it, briefly going to step on it. It's that kind of, it's trying to change that mindset from me, self, I, to us and we, which is really difficult to do. But I think when we do that, that's a really good positive thing. That's as far down that road as I'm going to go in this podcast.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because there is that bit about, community and us and all in it together. In previous podcasts and stuff, we've talked about the blitz spirit and what that meant. And I suppose, different intensities, but there's something similar about kind of what we're being called upon to do in that point. But we're also being called to self-care. And it's hard, isn't it, to go from thinking about us and all in it together, which in a sense normalizes how we feel, versus self-care, which is how do I look after me in order to be the best version of me that I can at the moment. Sometimes there's a rubbing up against between those two philosophies. And for me at the moment, I guess it's looking at, okay, so I can't feel attached in the way that I can't feel attached to the things that I did in the way that I was at the moment. So what can I use to define my own new normal? There's a new normal being defined by government, World Health Organization, whatever it might be. And some of that's scary actually for people, and some of that's quite frightening and banging your head against a brick wall because we've gone forward and now it feels like we're going back. So what have I got in me? What are my resources to feel secure and safe enough in self to then integrate with the world?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I think we've talked about this previously as well, that kind of what can I control? Like right now, what do I have control over?
The Olaf bit in Frozen 2.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, 100%. If you don't know what that is, really, really Google it, because that is the best bit of psychology I've seen in a film for a very, very, very long time. But surely everybody's seen Frozen 2.
Lots of times.
Lots of people have seen Frozen 2 many, many times.
Just to be clear, we're advocating watching it and learning from what he says, not putting clothes pegs all over yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, no. If you want to go for a world record, then something to do. But yeah, it's that kind of what can I control right now? Because it's focusing on what I can control, not what I can't control. Because the things I can't control, I have no control over. So I shouldn't really be putting a load of energy into them through worry, through what ifs, all those sort of stuff. It's like, what can I do right here, right now to gain some control? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need to feel in control. We need to feel safe. We need to feel secure. There is always something we can do. Even if we feel like there isn't. I forget the name of the guy who wrote that book, but that's not a helpful thing to bring up right now when I'm like, oh, that guy who wrote that book. The kind of where he talked about how we always have choice no matter what situation we're in. And that's true. There is always something I can control, even if it is the thoughts in my head. Even if it's that I'm choosing how to control how I react in this situation, or it's, I can choose, I have control over keeping myself safe. So if I am, I suppose I use myself as an example, someone in my household has an underlying health condition, so the whole household has to contain ourselves and socially distant, do all that sort of stuff. So we can control that. That's what we can control. So we can, do that sort of stuff, make sure we're kind of obeying all the rules and kind of, keeping ourselves safe, hands clean, masks, all that stuff. I can't control anything outside of that. So that's what we kind of focus on. And it does kind of give you a sense of control, of safety, of security in a world that feels like there isn't any sometimes.
Yeah, I like that. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've done sort of work with clients in the past around, change. Can I control it? And I know some of these ideas, and I'm aware of the simplicity with which we can project them as therapists sometimes actually as well. It's like, if you can't change it, why are you worrying about it? Because it's outside of your control. But if you can change it, why worry about it? Because it's in your control. And I get that sounds really simplistic to someone, but actually
it's not easy.
It's really true. And a lot of people, and I would put myself in this position as well, where I would say, yeah, but you don't know my story. You don't know where I am, and it's not that easy. It's not as easy as you say. And I think what we're saying as therapists is, yes, we hear that, but what we're describing here, this simplistic model, is the starting point. That's like opening the door into how you work it all out. And it comes from permission. It comes from a mindset of just starting the whole process of, I'm scared, man. I'm petrified about where we're going to go. I don't know how I'm going to cope. I feel out of control. Brilliant. That's you naming it, actually, because you're right. You're not in control. But there's a difference to being not in control versus being out of control. And that's a good differentiation to make. So in these situations, when we feel out of control, we need to check in with ourselves. Is my feeling out of control me redefining the fact that it's not my control to have in this moment? And if that's the case, and I hate to come back to the sort of the Brexit slogans of take back control, but there is something around self in that we can do. I can only control the things that I can control. If I try and control other stuff, I'm either going into impossible territory or I'm entering into an abusive relationship with somebody. And neither of those two things are healthy.
I think it's quite a useful one to think about, because I wonder how many people listen to this now are going, well, I have no control. I can control nothing. Because that's a really common thing. When I speak to people about this, it's always going, okay, well, I ask that question, what do you have control over? And someone will maybe give me a list of maybe 2 or 3 things. And I think the important thing to remember is that we have much more control than we believe we do. And we often kind of trick ourselves, or we've been tricked into thinking that I have no control and I am helpless, when that is the last thing that we are. And again, it's very easy to say this stuff sat here on Zoom kind of chatting away. Actually doing it is really hard, and that's the whole point, because it's kind of therapy, changing this thing, this grey lump of nonsense inside our heads, getting it to do something that's not the thing I do every day, or change it. It's really hard. Really, really hard, because it basically doesn't want to change. And it will resist.
Well, I always forget which one it is, and it's bonkers that I do, but we always have silly things that confuse us. It's either Pavlov's dog or Schrodinger's cat. It's one of the two. It's Pavlov's dog, isn't it, where he rang the bell for the food, and we're preconditioned to think in certain ways based on environmental constraints. And actually, so for those who don't know, Pavlov, I forget his first name now, would ring a bell, put food down for his dog, and in the end, the dog was conditioned to go that, the bell means food. And that's how we kind of live life. Unconsciously, we stumble into places where our automatic thought process is defined by external factors. And so what we're saying therapy is, and what we're saying we could do to self-care, is just to question that. For that dog, a bell doesn't mean food, but in the environment it's in, it does.
I love how you start talking about dogs, and my dog starts getting gruffly. So he just knows. I'm just ringing a bell, and there he is. He's probably going to start screaming in a minute. Screaming? No, shout. He's going to shout at the postman in a minute. That's what's happening.
Bark.
Bark. That's the word. Yeah. I call it shouting because it's funnier. But the thing with Pavlov is that he did the same experiments he did with dogs with human beings, got exactly the same results. So that we condition ourselves to do things, and we are
we're conditioned parentally as well.
Yeah, and societally, however you say that word, by society. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true, but these are really important factors to understand, I think, from a self-care perspective, and it comes back to why do I act the way that I act? Why do I respond the way that I respond? And it's just how things are. It's just how things are. So we need to perhaps sometimes just pause and reflect and think, I'm feeling a certain way because perhaps I'm being made to feel a certain way because I'm being triggered by reading social media posts of, the world's coming to an end or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Would I feel the same if I stopped reading those posts?
Yeah, it's interesting because the number of times we talk about in sessions with people about saying like, social media makes me feel like this, the news makes me feel like this, and actually, might have to end in a minute because he's going to get louder. That they make me feel bad. And the moment I stop doing that, I don't have that anxiety. I don't have kind of like the angriness.
Just the rage.
He's doing his Pavlovian responses to the postman. How dare he come and bring us a post every day? How dare he do his job? But yeah,
can I just say about Pavlov? Years ago, I thought he invented pavlova.
You mean he didn't?
No, that was the food he was putting down for the dog.
Is that why whenever anybody opens a pavlova, everybody goes, "Oh yes, please."
Right. Yeah, in fact, if you get one from a supermarket, as you peel back the cellophane, it makes a bell ringing noise. It's quite good.
I think we've degenerated, haven't we? I think it's a normal state of being. I think important things to think about, because we're meant to be keeping this short, and I think we've already done 15 minutes. The thing to remember is that it's really, 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 really important to be kind to yourself. Really important. Like I can't underestimate. Yeah, whatever the word is I'm looking for. Overestimate. Thank you. How important that is. It's really, really, really important. And that will be the last thing I say on time.
But it's so very true. We need to be kind to ourselves. But again, we can be conditioned through frustration to not want to.
What if I do that? You can't hear him.
I can't hear you either.
No, he's still going. But yeah, no, it's really important that we are caring to ourselves. And that's another thing that's really easy to say, but really hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think every human being has that experience of going, yeah, this is really, really difficult. It's really hard. It's easy to say, hard to do.
And that's the thing I'm conscious of at the moment for potential clients or even ongoing clients. That sense of frustration around, but the things that you can say in therapy are so easy to say. It's harder in practice than it is in theory, yes. I guess. And yeah, you're right, because if it was as easy to do as it is to say, you would have done it already.
She's going bananas.
Going back. How slow does the postman go down your road?
I know. He likes to. He really, really, really likes to tell him to go away. But hey ho. But going back to that Pavlovian conditioning thing, if we kind of accept that I have been conditioned to react in certain ways to certain things and think certain ways to certain things, like I think sometimes we're conditioned to think negatively. I can't speak today. Negatively about things. Then I can, in theory, condition myself out of my conditioning. So by like the whole being kind to yourself thing, it's like, well, I need to be kind to myself. Okay, so I just need to start doing it. Even if I don't feel it, I need to kind of give myself little breaks here and there. Give myself little like things to look forward to. Kind of start practicing it so that I start to condition myself into that. It is a way. It's not the be all and end all, but it kind of works.
But we sit with that conditioning of that construct around, again, to extend the sort of canine analogies and interruptions we're having this morning of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's not true. It's not true. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Dogs can change. Pavlov demonstrated that with the ringing of the bell and adapting it for a dog that had been part of his family for a long time. So we can change anything that we have embedded in us in terms of our patterns of behavior, our habits. Addicts can stop being addicts through change. We can remove ourselves from destructive behavior through change. We can move into positive behavior through change, but it starts with acknowledgement. So we've got to name it, and name the negativity. We then have to own it, and that's perhaps the hardest bit of the lot. It's quite easy to attach a name to something. It's then absorbing the fact that we've given it a name, and now we take possession of that. But once we have possession of it, it's much easier to navigate through that and bring out change. And I think that's the encouragement that we're wanting to offer to people is, you know what, the next few months potentially are going to be relatively bumpy. Who knows if it will be as severe as sort of like March, April time. It might not be in terms of lockdown, but owing to the fact that the nights are going to start drawing in, the clocks are going to change, and the temperature is going to get colder, it might compound actually and feel worse. So we need to look at how change can operate for us positively.
I think, you know, and sometimes heading into something and not sticking our head in the sand is a really good, like their eyes open going, okay, this could be awful. Sunny side up. But
no, but it's so true because we have that frame of reference from last time.
Being prepared for it, to be like, okay, what can I do? How can I help myself through it? What can I learn from last time that I can do differently this time? It's really useful stuff.
It is. I reckon that's probably enough content.
Yes.
For today's
I was just thinking
video.
that. 20-minute video.
It's good. And there's some good stuff there actually for people to kind of look at, because it's, you know, let's re-emphasize, you know, we're not in this alone. We are all in this together to varying degrees and to varying sort of senses of reason. But whilst that is the case, we don't need to use that as an excuse to just kind of sit back and do nothing. Self-care is really important, and as therapists we're going to kind of champion self-care, looking after our own mental health. So embrace change, don't be fearful of it, stick with it and look after yourselves and look after your families.
I think it's really important as well to remember, like, if somebody is suffering or if someone's going through a bad time, and if that's you or if that's someone you know, there are loads of places to reach out for help. Like, because I know, like, times now, like, you might not be able to afford to come in for therapy and pay for it yourself, but there are other places you can go and talk to, and, you know, GPs, NHS, Mind, Samaritans. There's loads and loads of stuff that's been set up recently, and it's still there for people who are suffering.
Absolutely.
Like,
and if you're Wellington based and funding is an issue for therapy, then still contact us. We can help point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. So, you know, I think it's important to not just worry about money and stuff, because our mental health is really, really super important.
That's it in a nutshell. Why don't we end with you giving out the contact details, Nathan, because I could do with another laugh.
Okay, so you can get us on our website, which is cornerstonesw.co.uk. Yes, cool. Or email us at contact cornerstonesw.co.uk. We are on Facebook. Are we still on Twitter? I don't know. I don't do Twitter, so I have no idea. Okay, probably. We don't really do Twitter. We're on Twitter. We don't really do anything with it. We're on Facebook. Facebook is Cornerstone Counselling. Instagram is Wellington Therapy.
Well done.
We haven't got a TikTok yet, but, you know, watch this. Two middle-aged men on TikTok. Yay!
Can you imagine? Who would want to see that?
I have no idea. Yes, let's do a TikTok at some point. We have YouTube, which I don't know the name of our YouTube page, but Cornerstone Counselling should bring us up. There's also links on our website to all of it. Stuff. We have a resource page with loads of bits and bobs that we've done over the years on there. There's our podcast, which this is kind of it. We're experimenting with the podcast. We'll see how it works. It's currently on whatever the one is that's not Apple, because for some reason it's not uploading to Apple. I don't really understand it.
The Anchor, isn't it? That it's doing it for us,
It's,
and it's going on to Spotify.
Spotify, that's it. I was going to say Snapchat. I'm like, no, it's not Snapchat. Yeah, it's on Spotify at the moment, and loads of other ones, but not Apple. Don't understand why. So yeah, and just you can, if you want to contact us, we do a free first initial session, so it's half an hour just to chat and check out and see what's.
How are we meeting clients at the moment?
We are online at the moment, as with lots of many other therapists. We are online, so that's FaceTime, Zoom, just those two, telephone calls,
Skype.
Skype, but Skype's a bit rubbish. Sorry, Skype.
Don't be judgmental. You're a therapist.
Yeah, but it is a bit rubbish.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But we do Skype, but telephones. We were potentially looking into doing sort of outside therapy, walking the flat, but it's getting cold, and who knows what the future holds. So that's kind of a bit.
Yeah.
That might disappear.
It's sort of up in the air, but we can discuss that with you. If it's logistically doable, then we'll look into it, definitely.
Yeah. As of recording, it's a thing that can exist. Tomorrow, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? But yes, but we're kind of super flexible at the moment with helping people to kind of engage and do what they need to do, because we need to be.
That's it. That's it. So we're here to support. We want to equip and encourage people. We want to help bring about positivity and change for people. We know it's not easy, and we know it sounds easier than it is. That kind of been the theme, isn't it, through this video? But please do get in contact if you've got mental health needs that you'd like to discuss, and to see how we can help you bring about some positive change in your life. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Even
thank you for watching.
I've been Chris,
and I've been Nathan.